live. Oh, one person. Great. Thank you for coming on a little early. And they're gone. And they're back. So I'm going to start in 2 minutes. And I guess it would be great if I had a little countdown screen, but I don't. So, start in about a minute. Who's here? I see one person. If you're a subscriber, you'll be able to chat. So, if I know you, just put your name in the chat. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. There's only one person on, so hopefully you can hear me okay, and you can, great, we've got another person coming on. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me okay, and if you can't, hopefully you can, say something in the chat to let me know. What I thought I would do today is just run through the end of year review. You can, great. Hi, Brian. What I thought I'd do today is just run through the year in review and basically give you like a director's commentary. And if you haven't seen it, this video is long. It's an hour and 42 minutes. So I may, depending on how much talking I actually do. Thanks. Oh, hi, Thomas. I may actually break this up into two different live sessions. Again, it's an hour and 42 minutes. And, if I'm talking over that, this could be a very long session, but it's up to you guys. If we get, if we get 2 hours in and we've got, a bunch of people and they're excited about what's going on and they want to continue, great. Otherwise, I can cut it into two separate sections and we can meet again. Let me know. So I'm going to start the video. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. And let me know if the audio is coming through okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Lowe, and welcome to my 2024 year-end review. How's the audio? The chop of all the videos, where they are in this video, February 10th, and I am on my way to Mount Tamalpais. Planning to do a trail run out there, starting at Muir Beach and going up and around and then through Muir Woods. So this is just one of my typical local runs. I live about 45 minutes from Muir Woods, and so run was really all about getting me out and running because I hadn't been too consistent up until this point. And I figured, make some content for the channel and I would go out. If you've never been to Muir Woods or never been to this part of the Bay Area, it's absolutely beautiful. The trails are great for hiking, great for running. Sort of on the backside of Tam, if you're a fisherman, there are lakes back there that you can fish. This particular trail is one of my favorites. It's called the Heather Cutoff. And it's sort of like halfway between Muir Beach and Muir Woods. And as you can see, it's just sort of a serpentine, switchbacks all the way up to the coastal trail. So I'm done. Just under 4 hours. pretty much the limit of my fitness right now. I started breaking down at the end of the run. So it's March 3rd, 2024, and I am at the Dipsy Trailhead outside Stinson Beach in Mount Tamalpais State Park with Mike from Outdoors with Mike. So this was the first time that I had met Mike, and we had a really fun time on this trip. And this was another trip where motivation just wasn't there to get out. And if I hadn't been going up Mount Tam with Mike, I probably wouldn't have gone on this hike. And we are going to summit mountains of lots of switchbacks. So there's a lot of elevation gain, but it's not so bad because you're switching back and forth. It is pretty slippy though. So we're continuing from Panchole along the Matt Davis Trail because Mike wants to take the steep way up.
That's right.
So we'll see how this goes.
I don't want to take the steep way down, that's all.
San Rafael Bridge there. I think that's the way I went up the last time I was here, but we're not doing that today.
I don't care if that's the right way.
Okay, so we missed our trail split, so we're going back up. We're supposed to be taking the Fern Creek Trail. So
His fault.
yeah, so Mike led on this trip using alt trails, and so I just sort of kept my local trail. I'm like, this is the way we're supposed to go up, but okay, we'll follow your phone. And it turns out that we walked right by it. Are you guys hearing me okay? Is everything streaming okay? If somebody could just let me know in the chat, that'd be great. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. If no one says anything, I'm gonna presume it's okay, and just keep going.
They were about ready to fall off. It turns out.
Of course, there are stairs. Okay, great. Thanks, Thomas. You know, it's Tam, it's Marin. Gotta have stairs, or it's not Marin County. Okay, as I was filling up on water, it started raining, so I put my rain jacket on. I don't have the Outdoor Vitals on yet. I will put that on once we get to the top. Just had a guy come by, tell us it is cold at the top, so we're gonna need all the insulation we have. Rain was not forecasted for this time of day, but as you can see, it's pretty dark and dreary out here. Yeah, so as we started going up, I mean, it started out okay, and then once we get to the top here, you'll see it was just miserable. There's an east peak, I think, and a west peak. And here we are. And there is nothing to see. Okay, so here we are at the top. It was 4 hours, 45 minutes with a 20-minute stop at Panchole. I wonder if I should put them away. So this is the steep ravine trail, and if you ever come to the Bay Area and you want to do some hiking, this is one of the more scenic trails to actually hike. And it goes about halfway up Mount Tam. You can start at Stinson Beach, and you go to the campgrounds at Panchole. You can do a short loop using the Dipsy Trail.
This is a really great trail.
Than we had planned for. Every mile from Mill Valley all the way, and there's a trail run that happens every year where you basically there's a couple. One, just go up and over and back. They've got the quad where you go up and over and back, and then up and over and back again. But everything went well. Hi, it's April 27th, 2024. I'm Jim Lowe, and Brian, the trail name was Steep Ravine, and you can catch it either or you can catch it at Panchole. Welcome to High Country Chronicles, Knives and Gear.
This, I guess, is the first official fishing trip of the year. I am currently in Yosemite National Park, which is typically where I spend my opening days. I'm going to fish the beadhead hare's ear and a small size 20 hare's ear. I'm fishing 5X, mainly because that's what I have. Ideally, 20 on a 6X, but I don't have that.
Yeah, so a lot of folks gave me some feedback this year that they wanted me to talk more about, my fishing setup and my flies and all that. That I was 2 years ago, and I know I caught fish there, but I don't remember how I caught fish there. So this helps. Historically, I start my season in Yosemite, and that's mostly true. If I get out around opening day, I don't always get out around opening day, but later the stream that I end up on, if you go back and watch the video, I hadn't been on that stream probably in 15 years, and I got a little turned around. It wasn't quite what I remembered it to be. But in Yosemite, especially around the Tuolumne and the Merced, all those tribs there, they've all got fish. Yosemite has a native population of rainbows, but over time, brook trout and brown trout have been planted. And so, if you're interested in fishing Yosemite, a really good book to get is Steve Beck's Yosemite Trout Fishing. Now, it's a guidebook, but it's not the kind of guidebook that you can just sort of flip through aimlessly and figure stuff out. You've got to read it line by line and go through and highlight it to actually find the real good nuggets of information. But again, on the western slope of Yosemite, any of those tribs that are feeding into the Merced or feeding into the Tuolumne, they're gonna have fish.
I'm also fishing a 7.5 foot 4-weight that I patterned off of a Payne 100 with my Hardy featherweight reel and a 4-weight GPX line. So I am wearing my waders today. It can be hard to actually know where the stream is and where the marsh is.
I love fishing these little gutter streams.
Yep, we got into a fish.
This is really the only one that I know of in California, but in New Mexico, my parents that are like a foot wide. It's absolutely ridiculous.
This little spot. So, not that many fish showed. I didn't see many fish. I didn't catch many fish. Then why come back? You might be wondering. Well, wanted to do something different. Haven't been out here in a while. And wanted to see how it had changed. Finally, a clean hookup.
Now, this is about as far downstream that I was going to go on this stream, but right below here, there was an excellent run, which if I had more time, I would have definitely tried to give a shot.
So come on the other side, and
I don't think I'm going to go there this year. This year, I think I'm going to head back to Butterball Creek. One of the things I've wanted to do.
That was a blast.
So
2020.
One of the things I wanted to do at Butterball Creek was to actually fish upstream. And I'd have to go back and reference that video. But if you've seen that video, I end up I cross as I go down through the redwoods. I cross the stream. I go up and over a mound. I get back to the stream. What I plan to do is actually fish from where I started 2 years ago up to where you first crossed that creek, and that takes like all day. This is our annual Mammoth trip. We didn't catch fish here, but this place is, for me, it's kind of hit and miss. I have a pattern that works, It's based on the case caddis movement. If the case caddis are moving, I'm catching fish. If the case caddis aren't moving, I'm not catching fish. Roger and his nephew actually fish up here quite a bit, and they do, they're a little bit more consistent than me. But if I get up here and the case caddis aren't moving and the fish aren't in the shallows, I lose my patience here pretty quickly, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go.
For day one of our annual Mammoth Lakes trip, Roger and I have come up to a big fish lake outside of Mammoth, California. Roger has headed up to the lake. I'm gonna fish the creek. Hopefully, we'll get into some big fish today. It was a 3-hour hike in here with a little glycating, quite a bit of snow to navigate, but not too bad.
Yeah, there's always a lot of snow early in the season. When I say early this season, this is Memorial Day weekend or the weekend before Memorial Day, so it can always be a little dicey. Now, the thing about this place is it's gotten really popular. I mean, it is really popular with folks. And from what I understand, this year there was a lot of trash on the lake.
Navigate.
It's very rare that we come up here and there's other people,
What's that now?
basically for a day, and they had already fished most of that bank that morning. And that was another reason why.
Well, I think it's time to call it. It may not, based on the beta we got from the two guys that had been up here since 8 in the morning, and the fact that they've been fishing it for a couple days, that combined with our combined knowledge of the lake and how it fishes this time of year, we just didn't really see much point in circumventing the entire lake. This time of year there are certain
circumnavigating
that tend to produce, and so we've checked those places out, and they're not producing. So maybe if we get quickly enough, we'll be able to head over to Hot Creek and fish a couple hours on the ranch. The trip down is going to be an adventure.
Yeah, and so as I say, those guys had been there for a couple days, and I don't think there's anything special about us that we would be able to catch fish, when they weren't. So
back at Hot Creek Ranch, great day of fishing. Even though we didn't catch anything, it's always a fun trek up there. About 14 miles round trip and about 6 hours of hiking in total. So good way to get in shape for the upcoming season.
Parker Lake
2024, and Roger and I are.
Yeah, so I got a little bit of flack for putting this video up there on hey Rod. There are folks that still want to sort of gatekeep Parker Lake, but I mean the cat's been out of the bag for a very long time. And on this trip, we went up there and we saw 100 people. 100 people. I've never been to any other lake in the Sierra, even the bigger ones like Crowley, and seen 100 people at the lake. And the other thing is, if I look at my the views that okay, yeah, I don't know if the issue is me or it seems like a few of you are having that issue. So maybe the next time I go live, I'll do it from my desktop and not my laptop. That could be causing an issue, viewing over Wi-Fi as opposed to using an Ethernet connection. But yeah, if I look at the most popular videos on my channel this year, there were basically two videos. This one, Parker Lake, and Hot Creek. And so, I mean, that just tells you how out of the bag, Parker Lake is, because if you didn't know Parker Lake, you wouldn't be coming to my channel to view it, right? So it's just kind of funny.
Headed up to Parker Lake. Parker's a lake that's known for its brook trout and large brown trout. Used to be one of those places that was sort of a secret back in the day, but fishers.
Park is absolutely beautiful. If you've ever been to Algier Lakes, let me pop that back. If you've ever been to Algier Lakes, there's two ways to get in there. One is basically over by the rail pass. For one, you can always go in the backside, and so the takes you up and over this. I don't know if you can see my mouse here, but this ridge right over here, and it's an absolutely beautiful. That's the way that we went. If you go, I think it was 2021, we went into Algier Lakes over everyday weekend. If you watch that video, that's the way that we came in. Some rising fish there.
We've arrived at the lake. Sunto put it at 59 minutes.
It was kind of cool. I ran into a guy that watches the channel. I think his name was John.
Which way did he go?
And he was taking pictures. He had a outstanding camera setup.
I don't know where he went. Oh, but there's one right there.
Now, this was nice. There were fish that were, I don't know if they were hitting the alder flies. There were alder flies all over this area, and they might have been hitting those, but they were just in this little section of trees in the shade, just kind of mulling about.
Comes, and survey says yes. Ah, I waited long enough. Guess not.
But you can see those dark spots; those are fish.
What I really need is a shorter rod under these trees.
Dark moving spots.
Oh, rejected. Why? Is he going to come back around? Yes, he is. Took it. Wait, there we go. Oh, rejected. Why? Is he going to come back around? Yes, he is. Took it. Wait, there we go.
Now, you could see there that there was another fish that was, maybe 18 inches to the right of my fly as well. So that fish might have, taken it just because it thought that there was competition. I don't know.
That's better than nice. I'll let that go down a little bit in case there's a fish down here. And then I'm going to shoot it up, get a whole bunch of line in front of me, and then wave it back and forth, pause, and then fire it up. Wave it back and forth, pause.
I've never fished this creek properly, and it's kind of hard because, the lake has such nice fish. Thanks, Brian. The lake has such nice fish that you kind of don't want to fish the creek.
Nope. Yes. I was on a fish. Almost back at the car, and
you can see all the cars in the lot there.
What a traffic jam! Lots of folks trying to find a place to park up here. Back at the car. It was a really beautiful day. We had a great time out there. Not a lot of fast action, but it was nice to catch that one fish.
That's Mono Lake in the background for the folks that aren't familiar.
It was a beautiful day. John, if you're still watching this, it was nice to meet you. It's Monday, May 27th, day 3 of the Mammoth trip.
So, Vita and I, and typically Roger, we all, we go out to Hot Creek every year over Memorial Day weekend. We've been doing that now, I think, for probably 12 years, a little bit longer. And as the years have progressed, the fishing on the creek is not as good as it used to be. And so typically what Roger and I will do is, we'll fish elsewhere. We'll fish mountain lakes like the first day. We might fish someplace else the second day. And then, the third or the fourth day, we'll fish the creek. typically what I've been doing is I've been fishing the creek on the 4th day, which is actually the day that we have to check out. And what I'll do is we'll check out, and then I'll spend the rest of the afternoon fishing the creek. It had been so long since I fished the creek. I really wanted to spend more time there. Didn't spend as much time as I had wanted to. I think we fished it the day before. I think we fished down in the bluffs, the lower section of the creek, the day before, and I don't think I filmed. But here we are. This is the day that we're leaving. This is our last day. And one of the things that I need to do more of, and I haven't done it in a while, is just to do some real dry fly fishing. And you can tell. I mean, my drift here is not great, but I'm still hooking fish. But it was a fun time. And the other thing about Hot Creek, everybody knows Hot Creek as a dry fly only ranch. That is partially true. It is a dry fly fishing ranch. However, in the winter, when the flows are high, you can fish dry dropper sometimes, or you can actually fish nymphs. And so I guess the year before last, I actually went into the fly shop there, and I took a picture where it was showing how to fish nymphs at the ranch. So on this particular day, this was a day where nymphs were allowed if the fish weren't rising to dries. And in this case, they were.
And Roger and I are fishing the upper section of Hot Creek Ranch. Today it's nymphing allowed unless actively feeding. And the only way to figure out if the fish are actively feeding is to sit and watch. I'm going to go up a little bit farther. While I've been sitting here, I had a few fish rise right in this little riffle here. I've got on a CDC midge. It's got a size 20, and then I've got my parachute caddis cripple. So
now that caddis cripple is not a fly that you're going to be able to find anywhere. So anybody that's interested in it, it's a fly that you would have to tie. It's a fly that used to be available locally. It's very similar to the EC caddis, but instead of having the parachute on the bottom, it has the parachute on the top. Also, at least in the fly shops, the EC caddis that you find, the patterns seem to be very sort of skinny. And if you've ever looked at a caddis aren't skinny. So this fly is tied kind of chunky, but it works very well.
I guess they wanted a little action there.
And so, yeah, it's ridiculous the number of fish that I ended up hooking into and not landing, in this, I don't know, hour and a half that we were out here.
Fish. There we go. Oh, that was the fish. There we go. And he picked up my cripple caddis.
And if you've never been to Hot Creek or Hot Creek Ranch, you can. I mean, I've caught 20-inch fish here.
Okay, just as I was considering moving, a nice brown came up right in front of me. There we go. But that's not him. That's not him. It's in the same place, but not the same fish. Nettles, armful of nettles. Teeny brown. Maybe 10 inches, I guess. Okay. Okay, picked up a small fish hanging out on the bank.
The other thing with the ranch is that they have a perpetual reservation system. So
It's a nice little brownie.
If you're lucky enough to actually pick up a reservation for a week that you like, you can get that week for the rest, basically for the rest of your life in perpetuity. And that's what we've done. So
time to head back to the car. I was hoping I'd be able to fish my way back, but I tangled my flies pretty badly. Too badly to untangle in the 5 minutes that I have left to get back to the cabin. It's July 2nd, 2024, and I am in Casa de Rathfor. I've just pulled up to the Kennedy Meadows Pack Station Trailhead parking lot, and it's about 8 o'clock. And fortunately, I am sufficiently tired to just crash here and get up early tomorrow and head into the Immigrant. Originally, I planned an 8-day trip, but my air conditioning and a tree in my backyard had other ideas. So I spent the last couple days fixing my AC and attending to some of the trees in my yard. And now I'm on the trail. I've got about 4 or 5 days that I can do, and I'm not quite sure what it's going to be. Got my first view of
yeah, Saucer Meadow. So I see a lot of people going in at Kennedy Meadows, and they're like, "Oh, we're just going to spend the night at Saucer Meadow." Don't spend the night at Saucer Meadow. Saucer Meadow is basically a bog, and it'll just be lousy with mosquitoes early in the season. I had, my very first trip into the Immigrant. I had the same thought, and yeah, it's not.
Mosquito pass.
Now, the great thing about the Immigrant is you basically sign yourself in. You don't have to,
This is where I want to start. I can see
get reservations in advance.
I want to fish this up this way. I'll probably start with the dry fly and try to sight fish.
Immigrant Lake is definitely one of my favorite lakes in the entire state.
Okay, he's going for it.
Now, if you watch carefully, there you can see that fish come in,
Dude.
and I just kept missing it. It was a brook trout, and I just kept missing it.
He's got a huge shadow. So a rainbow came in as I was drifting my fly, and he just subtly picked it up. Okay, let's see if I can.
Yeah, I love that spot. I mean, it's basically the I guess it's basically the stock camp. It seems to be later in the season. There's a lot of stock that they just sort of let hang out there. But I mean, I've been camping there for 20 years.
Oh, now there's a couple more that are coming in. How interesting. It's a nice fish. That is a nice fish. That's a great fish.
You can see all the mosquitoes. And, I've tried everything for mosquitoes. DEET's the best stuff. But I don't like using it. So the stuff I use, the Pickardin, doesn't work well at all.
My spot is flashing red. I don't know what that means. I thought it meant the batteries. I fixed the batteries earlier in the year and tested it, and it seemed to work fine. But I don't know. It doesn't seem to be communicating. If I can't send Vita an okay message tonight, and I'm going to have to turn around tomorrow and go home. Yeah, I've got extra batteries in my pack, so I'll see if that's the problem. But
so a couple things there. The mosquitoes, it's just a sort of a mind over matter kind of a thing, I mean, the fishing is good there, and that's the whole reason for going. So you just kind of let yourself go through it, and when you're catching fish, you're really not thinking of the mosquitoes. But a couple of things about this. So one, the spot not working was sort of an enduring theme throughout the entire season, and so I finally broke down and picked up a Garmin. I haven't opened it up yet, but that's probably what I'll be using. Well, that is what I'll be using this season. And the other thing you may not have noticed, or maybe you have, what I'm doing there is I've got protein powder. And so I put the protein powder into a plastic bag and I shake it up and I drink that typically after my meal. I haven't seen the new iOS update. I've got an older phone. I've got the Mini 13, and so I try to avoid updates if I can. But having the Garmin, I'll be able to text to the satellite, though. To be perfectly honest, the whole reason I got it was because of that feature in case there's an emergency. I don't know. I don't think Mike is on. But I'll put a link to Mike's video in the description later. But he and his brother were involved in basically saving somebody's life on Whitney last year. And watching his video, one of the key things that came out to me was the fact that if they hadn't had the ability to text Inyosar, their rescue would have been, just, I don't know, multitudes more difficult. Inyosar was able to communicate with them and tell them, hey, you need to go to this place so that we can get the chopper in and all of that sort of stuff. But that said, I don't want to be texting people when I'm in the backcountry, and my wife doesn't like that response. But that's the truth.
That's disappointing.
And you can see Emigrant's absolutely beautiful.
Fishing today was slower than I expected, a lot slower. I was pretty happy to see that rainbow, over the last, 5 or 6 years. It seems like the brook trout are starting to take over. There were at least 2 brook trout in that run that I was fishing.
Hey, Nick. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Pleasantly surprised that I caught a rainbow. The rainbows probably spawned sometime last month.
I try to,
and they're easy picking.
I try to keep in as much of the content without cutting as I can.
That the rainbows continue to successfully spawn, and that the brook trout don't overtake this lake. The brookies that I've been catching here over the last several years, they've been good size, but that's only going to last for so long. And if they end up overpopulating the lake, then all you're going to be catching are stunted brookies.
Yeah, now it's funny about that because there are people who still think that Emigrant Lake does not have brook trout in it, but they're slowly starting to take over, and in a couple of years, that could be the only thing that you catch in there. Fortunately, the brookies that are in there now are some of them are decent size. You do get sort of stunted brookies out in the lake proper. But where I was fishing, they still are decent size.
Well, I guess this is the end of day 1. It was a hot one. Didn't get skunked. So a good day. Good morning. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Welcome to day 2. I am on the backside of my camp, deciding to have breakfast here. I'm abandoning my traditional breakfast rock for someplace that I think might have fewer mosquitoes. I'm not quite sure. The breeze hasn't come up yet, so the breakfast rock is not going to be very advantageous. And so I figured I'd come out here. I've got my thermocell underneath me. And again, the thermocell works pretty well. It takes a little while to get going, but once it gets going, it does a pretty good job of creating like this invisible shield around you. You can see there's still a couple that are floating around. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do today. I had a really bizarre night. It was like sleeping, whether I was on my right side, my left side, or my back. I had these different dreams, but I woke up in the middle of the night last night with the feeling that, that I'm not supposed to be here. And that theme is just sort of keeps persisting. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. On the one hand, there've been a bunch of things that have kept me from coming out and doing the trip that I had planned to do. Maybe it was all a coincidence, or maybe there's a reason for it. And I keep thinking about, those people that feel like they shouldn't be getting on an airplane, and then, they decide not to get on the airplane at the last minute and the airplane crashes. I don't typically have these kind of, nagging, like, maybe this isn't what you should be doing. Especially not out in the backcountry. And what could happen out here? I guess fires, okay, but there's, different ways of getting out of here. Fire wouldn't spread that fast. Maybe an emergency at home, I guess. I mean, the aircon wasn't working. The tree limb came down. I don't know. I do not know. So I don't know what I'm going to do. What I do know is I am going to go fish, and I'm going to fish from like 7 to 10, and then I'll come back and I'll break camp, and I guess I'll make a decision then. Maybe fishing will help clear my head. Maybe this feeling will go away if I leave camp at around 11 o'clock, more like 11:30. That should put me back at the car, I guess, about 9 or 10, which is fine. I've hiked back into Kennedy Meadows that late before. So
I guess my best tips for solo backpacking: one, make sure that you tell people where you're going. Right? Make sure that somebody knows where you're going. Give them an itinerary when you're going to come back. I usually put on, my wife, of course, knows. I usually put on my car a note to the rangers saying, "Hey, I'm going X, Y, Z, and I plan to be back at this particular day." If I don't get back during that time, then hopefully somebody knows something's up. Bring a PLB, personal locator beacon. That's always helpful. In terms of the eeriness, I think that's just something you've got to just get, you've just got to get over. I mean, the reality is that there's not that much out there that's going to bug you, right? I mean, you've got, the bears typically are going to run, especially if you go someplace like the Immigrant where there are bears, but they're not going to bother you too much. There are a lot of people, right? So I would say, if you're just getting into solo backpacking, I would go someplace that's going to be fairly crowded, at least during the day. Maybe not maybe not a long way from the trailhead. So someplace like Camp Lake or Bear Lake in the Immigrant, it takes an hour to hike into Camp Lake. It takes another 30 minutes to hike into Bear. Camp Lake is on the way to other places. Bear not so much, but Bear is fairly popular. And so you're going to run into a lot of people during the day, enough so that you're not going to feel like you're really by yourself. And then I guess the only thing you need to worry about is at night when you may actually be by yourself, or there may be, there may just be, fewer people around you. And, if you go someplace where you're at, Camp Lake or Bear Lake, and there's like 3 people on the lake, at least, you have that sort of comfort to know that if something happens and you yell loud enough, that there's likely somebody that'll come help you out. I guess those would be really the main tips, but the eerie feeling, sometimes, I mean, I don't get them that often. Even here, this wasn't really an eerie feeling. It was just kind of like, hey, for some reason, I just feel like I shouldn't be here. I've never felt like there's something watching me in the backcountry, or, I've never felt worried or scared being in my tent alone. I mean, there's that one time I went to Camp Lake and there were those weird sounds everywhere. right? And I made that Bigfoot joke. I don't know what those sounds were. They were like three, whatever there were like three of them at different parts of the lake. There were other people in the lake as well. And they were like the next morning, they were like, yeah, we don't know what those weird sounds were. But even then, I wasn't nervous because the reality is, especially here, right? If it was Montana, okay, I might be concerned because grizzly bears are a real thing. But black bears typically aren't going to bother you. Cougars really typically aren't going to bother you. I mean, the statistics there are extremely low, and so you just have to get comfortable in your own skin. Um, for a lot of years, it was weird. For about 5 years, for some reason, and I have no idea why. Maybe because I read Bob Magic's book about the lightning strike on Half Dome I guess it was in the mid 80s, I guess it was. But there was like a 5 year period where I was just deathly afraid of lightning. Don't know why. It just came on. I'd been backpacking and hiking all my life. It just came on, and it would shut me down. I mean, it would shut me down. I'd go someplace, and it would start. The storm would come in, and I would be like, okay, I need to just sit there and shelter. And Roger and I actually did that. Our first time into Immigrant together. Our first day, mid afternoon, we came across some really bad thunderstorms, and so we ended up setting up camp on the bluff above Kennedy Lake, and we probably sort of sat down in the lightning position for like an hour, and then then it got late and we just got in our tents and there's lightning flashing around. And anyway, yeah, it would literally shut me down for a couple years. And then I just came to the realization that, what, hey, I'm sitting here not getting to where I want to go. And, everybody else is continuing up the trail. People aren't getting into problems. The chances of getting hit by lightning is probably pretty slim. And so, then it was just like, okay, well, I'm not going to let it shut me down. I'll be cautious, but I'm just going to continue to do what I need to do. And there was one time in Montana, I was with my friends Bernard and Noah, and anybody here that was in the old Southwest board would know Bernard is, I think he used the name LA River. Anyway, we were in Montana in the Bob Marshall Wilderness, and we were hiking to the Flathead River, and a storm came in, and right away I wanted to just stop, shelter, and that probably would have cost us a good hour and 90 minutes. But when you're with other people, you don't want to be that person that that slows everybody down, that causes all the drama. And so, Bernard was like, no, we're just going to keep going. We kept going. We kept going until the storm was like a half a mile from us. So I don't know if I would recommend that, but that's what we did. And so the storm was basically right on top of us, and we went and we sheltered in place. But I was so not, I mean, the nerves were there, and I wasn't thinking, and I was wearing a jacket which was supposed to be water resistant, but it wasn't waterproof. And I did not get into my rain gear. I was like, okay, I'm just going to shelter now, because we had waited for so long and the storm is literally right on top of us. I'm like, I'm just going to shelter as is. I didn't put my rain gear on, and I ended up getting just sopping wet and really cold, and cold to the extent that I just couldn't continue with the hike. Fortunately, we were not too far from a ranger cabin, and we got to the cabin, and the cabin looked like it was locked up, but it really wasn't. It was just the way that the locks were placed to make it look like it was locked, but it wasn't. So we unlocked the cabin, and we spent the night in the cabin, and it was great. We spent the night in our sleeping bags, but I was completely soaked. So I guess the long story, or the moral of it is you just got to get your head around what it is you want to do, and just be safe with it, but not let it shut you down.
so much of an issue. Yeah, I don't know.
Above tree line when a thunderstorm rolls by.
And bad
Either, and that's happened. I mean that
mosquitoes at bay. And
that trip I was talking about with Roger, the first day, you know, we on that bluff, and then the second day, a storm came in, and we were going up, and I forget which pass it is. It's between Kennedy Lake and High Immigrant Lake, and was it Old Sally or something like that, maybe? But anyway, we going up that pass, and it was absolutely beautiful on our side of the pass. And we get up there and we see some guy coming down. We ask how the weather is. The guy's great. We get up to the top of the pass, and we could see the storm that was it was basically on the other side of the Immigrant. I mean, it was basically over Snow Lake, but by the time we crested the pass, it had moved in so quickly that it was basically right on top of us. And so it moved in, I mean, literally within like 10 minutes, it was on top of us, lightning and thunder. And we were above tree line. So Roger and I were running down to High Immigrant Lake, and there's like lightning and stuff flashing all around us. It was pretty pretty exciting stuff. Yeah, you don't want to spill DEET anywhere. I had DEET basically crack my watch crystal once, and I'm like, no, you know what? I'm not gonna carry DEET anymore. Yeah, I mean those little critters, you know, they're not gonna bother you.
Now I'm seeing rises already. Okay, fish are definitely here.
But put your tents, you know, a little bit away from each other, so you kind of feel like at night that you're by yourself, but you know that you're not. I will try. I'll find it. You won't be able to hear the noises in the video, though. They were too quiet.
Okay.
And you can see there's like 3 fish there. And there's that one, if you know, that dark shadow, you can see it. Let me just pop that back. Let me explain on there. Okay, so you've got that rise, right? That rise on the left. That is the fish that takes my fly. If you look at the end of my fly line, just to the left of my fly line, there's a dark shadow. That's another fish. But the fish that rose on the far left, if you watch, you'll see that it swoops my fly. And you can see it coming over now. And right about there.
Got him. Not as big as the first one. Okay, let me get him on the reel. Very nice fish.
I will have to admit that the rainbows that I saw this year were smaller than I've seen in the past. And they're still nice fish.
Another nice fish. There we go. Well, that was a lot of fun. You know, I was a bit frustrated early on by my poor casting and presentation on the flats, but those last couple fish definitely made up for it. So I'm really happy with that last fish, and yeah, I think I'm gonna head back. You know, I feel like I should be home for some reason, so I'm gonna head home. I'm back at the car. I've changed clothes. I've stretched. Pretty much ready to go. Cinto puts it at
okay. Well, you know what I think I'll do then?
7 hours and 40 minutes.
Put this into 2 parts.
Climbing.
We'll finish the first half of the season, and then I'll schedule something for next week, and I'll run it off of my my desktop.
I really did expect to be out for 4 or 5 days, but I'm really happy with it. I had a good time at Immigrant. And Immigrant was my primary destination. I caught fish there. Had fun. The weather was amazing. I'm sure this whole week has probably been amazing, which kind of surprised me with all the heat. I would have expected.
I have fished the middle fork of the Kings. I've been into well, actually, I fished the middle fork of the Kings in 2 different places. Actually, I think I fished it in 3 places. So I fished it on the way into Evolution Valley once. I fished it in Tehipite. I think that's the Kings that runs through Tehipite, and that was really good. That was really good fishing. And then my buddy has a secret spot out there in Kings Canyon.
Expected thunderstorms, but not a cloud in the sky the entire time. Yeah, what else can I say about it? Yeah, I don't know how much. There's nothing really that I can add. It was a fun trip. I'm not disappointed in the slightest. I mean, Immigrant was my primary destination, and the other lakes, they were nice to have. I mean, I'm going to get to them eventually. I've been to Huckle.
Yeah, I was into Hippity maybe 15 years ago, and then my buddies, all the guys that I went with back then, they went again last fall, and I wasn't able to go with them, unfortunately. Yeah, Kings Canyon's got some good fishing.
I haven't been to the others, so I'm going to have to, work that in some way. But yeah, I don't know what to say. I had a blast at Immigrant. Immigrant is always fun. I'm glad I caught fish. I'm glad I caught some decent fish. I'm glad to see that the rainbows are there in numbers. Hi, it's August 30.
So this is the first of the Golden Trout trips. I think we'll get through these, or at least we'll get through half of this week, and then then I'll do a part 2, I think, next week. The lakes that I had planned to fish in the Immigrant, I will probably end up fishing those this year. I typically end up doing that. Thanks, Brian. Oh, you did? Okay, cool. Okay, see you. The Immigrant, depends. If you can tolerate the bugs, I like going in the spring. I shouldn't say the spring. I like going in the early summer. August can be really hot. But then if you go again, towards the end of the season,
are again at Cottonwood Pass.
So this is our big week
We're hoping to do
of golden trout fishing.
From Cottonwood Pass to Shepherd Pass, fishing 3 or more lakes in between. I just have no energy today for some reason. Cottonwood Pass. So we are here.
So Cottonwood Pass is a really good way of getting into the backcountry. It's not terribly difficult, even though I was just crushed on this hike going in for some reason. It isn't. I mean, it as in terms, backcountry ways in. It's fairly benign. There are other places that are going to be much more difficult. I mean, Pine Creek's going to be difficult. New Army Pass, Old Army Pass, those are all going to be much more difficult. Going in via Whitney, of course, is going to be more difficult. So if you want to get good, especially if it's your first time, or you're taking beginners into the High Sierra, this is a really good way to go.
This says 6 hours, 50 minutes, 10 miles, and 2,098 feet of climbing. Not that much. Pretty slow. Currently, we're at an altitude of 10,817. So Roger's already hit the water. I am trying to send a spot signal. I'm having trouble with the spot again. I definitely have to get a new one. The second time where I've picked it up and the batteries are dead for no apparent reason. 6 o'clock, and I'm heading down to the lake. Roger's already there. I've got with me a 9'5" weight that I patterned after Sage LL with a double tapered line. I've also got a net with me. So I think that'll be a first for the channel.
I hate nets.
Roger's
Absolutely hate them.
telling me that I should join him down there. So that's what I'm going to do. So
this lake is one that we hadn't fished before. We hiked into the lakes that we'll visit on day 2. We hiked in there during a different way. If you've been watching on the channel, it's the time when we went over that really nasty pass, and we hiked past this lake and we saw some nice goldens. And so I'm like, okay, I want to go back here and fish. We didn't see any nice goldens on this trip, but yeah, I mean, this is another lake that's kind of easy to get into, and it's pleasant. Apparently there are lots of bears because there are bear containers at the lake, and there are very few places I've ever been to that actually have bear boxes at the lake, but this is one of them.
Oh, the only active fish seem to be hitting the surface every once in a while.
And do not.
Or even leave. No.
But Roger always gives me a hard time for not having one.
Me up on a stick. First netted golden on the channel. Hey. Roger managed to catch a 9-inch fish, which is pretty cool. As you can see, so it's about 10 after 9, and I'm finally getting some sleep. I'm wearing a buff tonight because of the smoke. Roger's also prepared. He's got this N95 mask in case it gets really bad. Some of the backpackers here are a little concerned about the fire and whether we'll have to evacuate, but I guess we'll see in the morning.
Thanks, Nick.
So it's Saturday, August 31st. This is day 2 of our trek through Golden Trout country. I have climbed up on a high bluff just to get some perspective on where the fire might be. Yesterday, we could clearly see the fire coming in. We could see it. We could see the smoke billowing up from the forest floor. When we got here, the air was pretty clean. Winds shifted last night, and the smoke came in. Several of the campers around us were a bit concerned, and so we decided to spend the night anyway because we didn't think we were in too much jeopardy. We're heading back down to the lake. We're going to fish for like 20 minutes, I guess, and then head to the next destination.
Yeah, it was because I was pretty high up. This is awkward.
Oh, rejected?
You can hopefully see that fish. There he is.
Oh, I got my net. I should use my net. Old habits die hard. One right there.
Now, I know this looks like I'm fishing right in front of Roger, but I'm not.
Too far? Nope. He sees it. There we go. Oh, and now I'm in the weeds. A strong little fish. Oh, I got a net. Almost forgot. Yeah, it's much better. We are ready to hit the trail. The next destination is somewhere between 10 and 13 miles. That's a pretty big spread there. I mapped it out.
Yeah, you can get into Goldens without having to go into into the backcountry. I mean, you can get into, it's just a couple hour hike, and you can get into fish. A good resource is the what do they call it? I think they call it the Eastern Sierra Fishing Guide. The Fishing Game puts out. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. And it basically, it gives you. It's basically it's what is it? A PDF. It's a PDF, I think, that will take you to all of the different regions in the Sierra, and you click on a different region that you're interested in, and it'll expand that, and it'll show you all the different lakes, and it'll tell you all the fish that are in those lakes. And so, I mean, you can get into Goldens fairly easily, and one of the big places that everybody goes is Cottonwood Lakes, but there are others.
At home at 10 miles. Roger thinks it's 13. 13 actually makes more sense because if I... Was it 27? Okay, yeah, so we got a long way to go today.
So that 27 miles, that is the video where Roger and I are hiking out and we get caught. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I better start writing this stuff down. What I'm promising to put in the description.
I'm 14,405 feet. Mount Whitney is the tallest mountain in the contiguous United States. Finally at the lake. We were tired and in a hurry and pretty much pitched our tents just anywhere. Wow, what a day. Final tally was 11 hours, 16 miles, 3,500 feet of climbing. We're currently at 10,006 or 700 feet. Yeah, so this will be home for the next 3 nights. Enjoy peace wherever you find. Flowing, lights out throwing, loneliness is not here. There is life everywhere.
Yeah, no, I've got that one written down. It's the other video that I can't remember.
Majestic is everywhere. The hills and the lakes are calling in. It's September 1st, 2024. Dad, if you're watching this, happy birthday. We are on day 3 of our journey into California's Golden Trout country. If you haven't seen days 1 and 2, please go back and give those a watch so you have a better understanding of where we are and how we got here. It's a fishing day. We're on an infamous Golden Trout lake looking for a slow retrieve, really slow retrieve. Okay, where's the stupid? It's a better fish. Where's the net?
So this lake produces some nice fish. Produce bigger fish than we're actually catching.
Nope, stay away from that rock. It's the same rock. The last one got me off one. Okay, let's see. Net, do your job. There we go. Whew. Using a net makes me so nervous. Some nice fish.
Now, this is one of the few places where I actually fish a sinking line.
There we go.
And you can see it's really effective here.
There we go. 14, maybe 15 inches. Hard to say. It's probably 14. I guess it might go 15. Well, I just did something I don't typically do. And that is I took a fall. I'm trying to assess everything. I think I'm okay.
I obviously didn't know what was going on with my little glasses lanyard there.
I think I'm okay. Could be adrenaline talking. Yeah, moving all right. And
more smoke coming in.
Smoke from the California wildfires has moved in. Ranger Glenn had warned us that this basin gets pretty smoky. I'm just happy that it waited until late afternoon for it to happen.
I do not like smoke in the backcountry.
Started out really slow, and then picked up in the afternoon. And I figured out what pattern would work for me, and started picking up fish. So I'm really, really happy for that. Took that fall, which is unusual for me. I usually don't fall, and I think it has something to do with my eyes changing and this prescription not being the best for me anymore. It's kind of hard to. Perception in these glasses is a little off. So yeah, I think that's what caused the fall. I seem to be okay. We'll see, when I wake up tomorrow morning, we'll see if I have any aches and pains or bruises or anything like that. I think I'm going to end today's video on that. Today is day 4 of our journey through to the upper lake, but as you can see behind me, some clouds have moved in, and it's only like 7:30 in the morning. So we're not quite sure what's going to happen with those clouds. They're a little dark for 7:30 in the morning. So it's making us think that, we might have a little weather. Instead, we're just going to continue to fish this lake. We're going to fish the far side this time. We didn't get to the far side yesterday. Basically, to fish the far side, you've got to go up to the bluff. That's behind my right shoulder. And so we'll do that today. And hopefully we'll get in some nice fish.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So Roger and I have only been to this lake twice, and the first time we were here, fishing was good on where you just saw, but then over here on the other side towards this beach, basically directly behind me, there's this bluff, and the fishing was good there. But this trip we didn't catch anything along that bluff. I think Roger may have gotten into one fish. And then all the rest of the fish I caught were on the far bank.
It is colder today. It's nice and toasty with these clouds overhead. It's keeping it cold. So I'm a little sore this morning from that fall I took yesterday, but everything checks out. I've got a bruise on my thigh. My shoulder's a little sore. Got a nice raspberry on my hip, but that's about it. So probably would have broken a hip if I were, but yeah, I think I'm good to go for the rest of the trip. So I hooked into a fish here, but my fly was so deep. that I didn't get a good hook set. And yeah, it was strange. It didn't feel like a strike at first. And so, I set the hook, and then I saw the flash. And by the time I tried to get on it, it was gone. Finally into a fish. Jeez.
Yeah, so I had about a good hour of fishing here. I got into a bunch of fish.
Not bad.
And the water is very similar to what we were outside, so I had, I had some confidence.
Fish on, and another one, 30 seconds, and I'm catching them like right at this drop here. Oh man, it's a fat fish.
And when I say 30 seconds, it's 30 seconds on an intermediate sink line.
That might be the best fish. Oh, the whole trip.
Yeah, that was a cool fish. That's probably this is my favorite fishing day of the entire trip. That's my favorite fish.
Maybe. There we go. Ooh, this might be a big one. Oh, geez Louise. Better get this on the reel. Not a bad fish. Okay, go.
So yeah, this was like a fish every 5 or 10 minutes. And then it just sort of cut out all afternoon until about 3 or 4 o'clock.
Had too many fish for you. The wind has suddenly just picked up to like gale force. It's ridiculous. I can't even get my cast out. I've come out here behind this little island, and maybe the water's a little more protected. I don't know. Haven't seen a single fish. Don't know how Roger's doing over there, although I don't see him anymore, so he must have moved. Finally into a fish. That's a good fish. Let's see if there are any more where that came from. And if not, I'll say I'll make 6 casts. And if not, then I'm going back to the other side. There we go. Well,
yeah, so what I didn't capture there was the fact that I actually caught a bunch more fish. Somehow I got the time on my camera wrong, and I was turning the camera on when I wanted it off and off when I wanted it on. There's another lake, basically, that Roger and I still haven't fished. And a little bit later here, I'll say this will probably be my last time coming here, just because of my age and how difficult it is to come in. But I still want to fish that upper lake. So, it'll probably happen. Probably won't be until, probably won't be for another 2 years, but it will probably happen, presuming that, nothing happens to me physically in the next 2 or 3 years.
That was a pretty good day of fishing. It's always nice when you can come to a lake and you can find a pattern that you can fish with confidence. This might not have been the best pattern for this lake. Somebody could have come and fished a black woolly bug, picked up 22-inch fish. But, it's consistent enough to have fun and pick up some good fish. Well, I guess this is the end of day 4. Tomorrow we pack up and leave. We're going to hit the PCT again, and then head to another off-trail location. So, pretty good day overall, as I said. That wind was ridiculous. It was rough, but I lucked into a few places where I was able to catch fish. Roger picked up some fish, but it sounded like he had to really, really work for him, and he had a tough day. Tomorrow, it's probably going to be a 6 or 7 hour hike to the next destination. Some of it's off trail, and off trail is always slower than on trail. So we'll see. This is a lake that neither one of us has ever been to. We have high expectations, so we'll see how it goes.
And I think I might end things there. So we are at 1 hour and 24 minutes. We're halfway through the video. Do this again next week. We'll pick up right here on day 5 out. But before we sign off, does anybody have any more questions? No, doesn't seem like it. So thanks for coming. I don't know, I can't tell who's here or how long folks have been here, but there's been consistently at least 3 people here the entire time. So thank you for that. I appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you. Talk to you guys later.